I mean, I know that you're a very busy councillor, and in fact, you're deputy leader of the London Borough of Barking and Dagenham. That's a big councillor job. How did you kind of get involved in local politics, and what's your little bit of your story, Saima?
Yeah, I'm someone that was raised and brought up in France. I came to the UK in 20 years ago now, and arrived here directly in Barking and Dagenham. Actually, I followed my husband, but I was soon, unfortunately, abandoned in a homeless unit hostel in Barking, which I made my home. I was in a homeless unit on Boundary Road. I think every day I see that hostel, and it always keeps me very humble and to my roots. I'm a mom. I'm a single mom of three daughters, and I when I came here, I couldn't speak English at all. Being French, I don't know how many people actually speak fluently English, and I used to struggle all the time, especially when you've got different accents, you've got different ways, and so it was a bit of a journey for me. I started with volunteering in a charity shop, and very quickly joined the Metropolitan Police as a volunteer. I worked as just doing a bit of admin in the Borough Intelligence Unit. And one day outside my school, I met my MP, and she was leafleting and campaigning against the BNP. I liked, what they were doing. I wasn't really aware of what, political parties are really doing, especially not about the Labour Party. But what I liked was what, the battle was about, which was about fairness, anti, fascism and racism. And, we had the BNP here in Barking and Dagenham. Nick Griffin was standing to be the parliamentary candidate. We had a BNP candidate in every ward, if not more than one. So we were kind of like looking at the very first, fascist council in the country if they would have won. And I got involved in the party because I needed some support. And my MP did wrote a letter of support. And when you helped me, and so I just asked the question, "Oh, thank you very much. How can I help you back?" This is the question you don't ask a politician, by the way. So she just put a pile of leaflets and said, "Well, maybe you can help me in leafleting in your area." And I started to leaflet and really liked what the Labour Party values were, and really liked the fact that, we were fighting against fascism and racism. And before even I knew, I was part of street meetings, coffee afternoons, doing my leafletings, getting involved. And over time, moms in schools especially were aware that, oh, she works with the Met as a volunteer, but she knows the police and she knows the MP. And so before even people kind of like, rely on you and come to you for advice or help or, a bit of guidance. And I was as well as campaigning, but never really thought about standing to be a councillor because I don't speak English. It was always something that would put me back. And I remember when I was asked first time to stand, I was in the MP's office and I was asked, would you consider standing because you bring in casework, you attending everything, it's really good, we need people like you. And I thought, no, I can't stand and the reason I always used to give is like, I don't speak English. And yeah, I went for it in 2010. First time I stood and first time I got elected. I was really privileged. I stood where in the ward I lived in Gascon Ward, and I got elected successfully. And it is since an honor and a privilege that I carry on doing this role. I have moved my ward now because I have moved house, so I like to stand where I actually live. I now represent Northbury Ward, still in Barking and Dagenham. And in 2014, I was re-elected successfully, and I became the deputy leader of the council. And I have to say that, when you start, first time you start, and in 2010, for those that, know a bit in politics, the Labour Party actually lost government. So you join thinking, okay, I'm going to make some changes, I'm going to change the world. And you actually start to cut and cut and cut. And since then, we're just cutting services. But at the same time, you start to be more resilient and look at ways at delivering, and actually making a point that you are elected for something. Even beside the cuts, there is still opportunities. There's still ways of delivering and doing things. So it has been like a challenge, as well as I have to say I have enjoyed it a lot. It hasn't been always easy. It's always something that we should take on board, and go along with what the situation is in the country, or even politically, or even where we are at the moment. Who would have said about the COVID situation? We've been through a proper roller coaster, but being in Barking and Dagenham, a place that is one of the most deprived borough in London and also in the country. We're one of the youngest in the country as a place. 1/3 of our population is under the age of 16, if not 19. So we're very young. And so it brings, those challenges along. And we've got also, loads of opportunities at the same time. So, my journey into politics has been accidental, I have to say. Having said that, something that, I have thoroughly enjoyed. I've learned a lot. I do, use a lot of my skills and knowledge that I've gained over the years, and also because I've lived in different places, and I'm very curious. I like to go in different places and actually see what they're doing with their community work. I had the opportunity to visit actually other countries, where I think wherever I go, I kind of first try to link with people there which are into the voluntary social sector, or even see what other faith sectors are doing. I feel privileged in that sense. I don't think it's just for me to do this. I think a lot of people could do it. I think it's one of your 32 steps actually to be a bit more engaging, and to be a bit more inclusive into what you do. So that's my kind of journey into politics. Sorry, it could be very long, but I'm keeping it short.
No, it's really been fascinating to hear that. I mean, and look, local governments in a parlous financial situation, and as you say, Barking and Dagenham is a poorer borough. There's quite a lot of struggles there, and you've been working. I know that from experience, been working very closely with the voluntary community sector, and doing work around community cohesion. The One Borough Festival, the One Borough Manifesto, I think it is as well. So you've been leading that work with engagement with the voluntary community sector. And how's that gone generally? Do you think, Saima? Are you in a good place in terms of bringing different communities, different community organisations together, even though people are obviously financially in a tough place? Yeah.
Yeah. So in 2014, when I became deputy leader, I also became. I was at the time cabinet member for housing, and there is one thing that is evident. We've learned this from those days of the BNP, is that we need to listen, and listening is not just an exercise that you would do. I think it has to really mean something. So when we say listening, it was very much the court listening, very, very raw. You sit down with people, you ask questions, you might have difficult, conversations. Personally, it's not something I'm worried or scared about. I like to have proper discussion, whatever works, what doesn't, well, let's have every ideas on board. That's also one of your 32 together steps. So I think it's important to listen well and not do things to people, but actually involving them in making that decision. and what they want. It's not about what I would like to see, but or what the MP would like to see. It's about what people want to have and see in their communities. So in 2016, we established. I was privileged to lead on the Borough Manifesto, which is a non-political document. We had that proper conversation with people, so we didn't leave any stone unturned. So I had, with the online and paper form questionnaires, I was like with my offices on on different stations in the borough from 7 to 9 in the morning. We would ask questions to people. I was like in coffee shops. I was in all the schools, in all the community places. Shopping malls, etc. Wherever you could in the market, asking those questions, having those conversations. And it wasn't just a tick the box exercise. It was a proper conversation with people, and having, after a long time, for a local authority to have over 3,000 people responding and having that proper conversation and helping you shape that document is something that I'm really, really proud of. And as a local authority, we are definitely. But, after shaping that Borough Manifesto, it gives you, a proper overview of what the need is. But at the same time, we also had an independent growth commission, which also gave us, that was pre-manifesto, and that also gave us, where we are as a borough, what the opportunities, but also the challenges and what we need to do and change. So after that, we created my portfolio. So we transformed the way the council was working. Like all the councils, we were going through the cards. So you can't deliver the same amount of services or the same way. So there was a lot of prevention and a lot of work towards making this council more, value for money, and also deliverable, especially on the economic aspect of it. So once we moved from this, we created this portfolio, which is community leadership and engagement. And under my role, I look after all the voluntary social sector, the faith sectors, the heritage, the parks, and also still housing a bit. Not the whole housing, but a bit of housing. So, which, for me meant that, having a conversation with the voluntary and social sector, we had the opportunity to do it with the Borough Manifesto, but then out of it, it was evident that we needed a better umbrella that brings, those community groups together, so they could start to really help each other. So we had the CVS building as organization, and which is still here. But the BD Collective is what came out of it. So having all those organizations working in more collaboration, and really we're working together was also a great success. It's still a success. It's still something that, is progressing and moving forward. There is that proper, collaboration. And what was good that, having set up and led on this, meant that when Boris Johnson, 5 days before Boris Johnson actually, put the whole country on lockdown, we had called all those organizations together. So more than 87 community groups were invited here in the town hall. And what I did with my colleague, the leader of the council, is that, addressed what the needs are of our borough. So we've got our data and insight team. So we know as a council, and that's before even the NHS or the government were giving us any information or insight on our residents. But we knew those that are isolated, those that are living, with special need or medical need, because of the services and the data and insight that we had. So what we did is ask those groups to form what we called at the time BD Can, which was we had different hubs across the borough, and it could be like a local mosque, for example. I'm going to use the one in Northbury Ward. Al Medina Mosque was the hub for the whole of the town centre area. We had Kingsley Hall, which is also equally a great partner of the council. A church, community hall, etc., leading on another aspect in Dagenham. So overall, we had so many groups, and they were literally looking after grocery, picking up the, you know, prescriptions, befriending over the phone, etc. And that created actually, you know, I'm going to use the word togetherness, because that really created what you really want to see. You want to see your community groups by your neighborhood as well, all connected and working together. So I was yesterday, actually, I was yesterday in the mosque visiting with a group of officers. And we were talking about all the elderly people that would have never connected with the mosque, for example, are still in touch with the mosque. They're still coming to coffee afternoons, or they're actually doing like Tai Chi together now in the mosque. And they're doing things, and that really created that relationship, I think, that we should be very proud of. On the other hand, the community sector, voluntary sector, and also the faith sector really sprang during COVID. And I think that is all due to the work that we had been doing prior to it. It takes time. It takes a lot of time to, and a lot of cup of teas to set up that. But we really need to start to, and I'm glad that we're doing it, but that connection, that working together, that collaboration, that dialogue, and listening has to, the sooner you start it, and it has to be consistent. It has to be on a long term, with a good vision as well, because if you don't have the vision or the aim that you want to achieve, then, you're not really going anywhere. But it's always good to have that vision, and also to have that consistency.